Okay, who here hasn't been to space? Why? You better not throw up on my ship.
Approaching jump in 3, 2, 1.
All right. So let's get into James Gunn. If everybody knows already, right, unless you've been living under a rock, you should know. James Gunn was supposed to announce, and I'm sure maybe he still is, I don't know. There's only, 4 or 5 days left in this month. And with this little bit of days left in this month, we still don't have any type of slate for DC. We still don't have any type of idea of what the next 8 to 10 years are going to look like. And now, he did say that he was not going to give the entire 8 to 10 years when he talks about what the future of the DCU is going to look like. They were just going to give some of the things that they are going to be debuting out to the public for the newly rebooted DC universe. But we've not heard anything since he said that in December. And so now with the 5 days left in this month, we still not heard anything, but James Gunn has still been on Twitter. He's still been answering different questions. I mean, he was talking, I don't know if anybody saw this, but I guess MT, and the only reason I saw it is because I follow James Gunn on Twitter, and he replied to MT, so I saw that MT made a video about him. Well, James Gunn replied to that video. James Gunn replied to someone that asked him about Doom Patrol and Titans being canceled. So he's still actively having conversations and replying to different individuals, different accounts and things on Twitter, as James Gunn does, but he has not got on Twitter and told us or answered any of the questions involving the next 8 to 10 years of the DC universe, and that is what we all want to know. For me personally, when I saw him replying, talking about Doom Patrol, or even sharing the Shazam trailer, which I expect James Gunn to do things like that, being the CEO over at DC, and for things like that, I expect him to share, trailers, even if it's for IPs or projects that were put in place way before he stepped on the scene as CEO. I expect him to still do and share those trailers and things like that. But honestly, I didn't watch the Fury of the Gods trailer. I'm not going to go watch Fury of the Gods. I don't really care about Fury of the Gods. And as I've said before, your mileage may vary. I don't care about, outside of Blue Beetle, I don't care about any of the other things that are really going on with DC right now, because there's no consequence. They don't matter. They're not going to be moving forward in the newly rebooted DC timeline. So why should we care? Now, the rumor is Blue Beetle is still going to be a part of that. That's the rumor. When James Gunn has not come out himself and answered that to, anyone on Twitter. But the rumor is Blue Beetle is still going to be a part of whatever is going on with the rebooted DC universe. However, Fury of the Gods, unless we're to believe what Zachary Levi is saying about him not going anywhere, whatever that tweet was he put out some weeks ago, if we're to believe that, some of the scoopers, though, like My Time to Shine, Hello, Can We Get Some Toast, Ember, and others, they all state that Zachary Levi is out. There was actually that picture, those montage of pictures that people were sharing on Twitter. It was James Gunn, Peter Safran, and Zachary Levi, and they had all went on a ski trip together. And someone quote retweeted it and said, "This is literally what you do with your dying dog on their last day. You take them out and you show them a good time." And I thought that was really funny, because Zachary Levi, again, let him tell it. He's fine. He's safe. He's going nowhere. But you let others, like, My Time to Shine, Hello, and the other credible scoopers out there that have been accurate when it's come to what's going on in the DC universe right now, they say Zachary Levi is out. So I would like for James Gunn to get on Twitter and just give us a slate of what it is we should be expecting, or what we're going to be looking at for the future of the DC universe. But like I said, he's yet to do any of that. He's still talking on Twitter, but just not talking about that. And this is what he's having to say about people being upset that Henry Cavill was removed from their DC universe. And this is this is what James Gunn is having to say to fans about that. After receiving hate over the ousting of Henry Cavill as DC's big screen Superman, DC Studios head James Gunn clapped back at fans yet again. Gunn and his CEO Peter Safran are in the process of putting together their plan for the DC Universe's DCU, with the full full unveil set to happen in a matter of days. We'll see. But it has not been all sunshine and rainbows since the pair took over Warner Brothers' super-powered franchise. Not long after the duo assumed their newly minted positions in November 2022, it was revealed that a new Superman project was on the way, but that the character would not be played by Henry Cavill. The news has garnered mixed reactions amongst fans, with Gunn taking the brunt of the vitriol, something he continues to handle in his own unique James Gunn way. And that's obviously arguing with YouTubers on Twitter. Then it goes on to say, replying to a fan on Instagram, DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn continued his streak of replying to fans negatively online, this time pointing out that this particular skeptic's spelling prowess or lack thereof. And yes, I did see that. I did see his tweet. If you saw the original tweet, it was actually kind of funny. It goes on to say, after one fan told Gunn he had pissed off an entire franchise worth of fans, and that Cavill's Clark, the new DC, and that hashtag Cavill's Clark. Then it said the new DC head replied by noting that it'd be great if at the very least they knew how to spell the actor's name before making snarky internet comments. This is the tweet from the dude to James Gunn. He said, fuck your cat, dude. You pissed off an entire franchise worth of fans. Nobody gives a rat's ass about your cat. Cavill's Clark. Hashtag Cavill's Clark. And he did spell Cavill wrong. But then Gunn replied, it'd be great if at the very least you knew how to spell the actor's name if you were going to be so outraged. Then it goes on to say the Instagram post on on Gunn's personal account showed his cat standing on the filmmaker's desk with an apparent connection to the DCU plans. The DC Studios boss has been vocal since taking over the job at Warner Brothers, speaking either directly to fans online or on the idea of fans negatively, even dispelling rumors that he doesn't like Henry Cavill. That was when he got in the argument with Josh over at Den of Nerds. Then he said, Gunn noted in the past that he knew what he was getting himself into with a job like this, and that there were always going to be a certain minority of people online who would not respond well to his and Peter's plans. And it goes on to say these skeptics of the new DC executive vision for the franchise have popped up in nearly any thread, even related to the comic book world. And it's very true. It's kind of like when we talk about recast T'Challa. Actually, no, I'm not going to get to that. Then it says, after the passing of Batman's voice actor Kevin Conroy on Twitter, one Twitter user replied to the news saying, fucking James Gunn, to which Gunn responded by pointing out that a wonderful, talented soul had just passed away. Perhaps you have difficulty picking up on cues, and if so, I'm sorry that can be a difficult thing in life, but my post is about a wonderful, talented soul who passed away. So this might not be the right time and place for your response. Gunn has been saying quite a few things, and we're all privy to this. We all know what's going on Twitter when it comes to James Gunn and the Snyderverse or DC fans. Then it goes, the last thing it says here is, at this point, it feels like wherever James Gunn goes, he's going to be followed by snarky internet comments waiting to lob whatever insults they can at the DC Studio CEO. He has a tall order to fill with the new DCU plans. Not only does he have to convince those that tuned out of the Snyder era of the DCU that his plan is a good one, but also the loyal evangelist of all the that very same era. Then it goes on, it says, basically, since taking the job, the director turned studio executive has been getting hit over the head by trolls in his replies from day one. Fans have been calling for Warner Brothers to fire James Gunn. That's the hashtag fire James Gunn. So of course Gunn is going to get a little defensive. These internet trolls are how he deals with the hate. And at this point he's replying to his replying is harmless and at the very least funny. some of them. Then it said, but it will be a different story if he and his co-CEO do not deliver on their promises of a powerful vision and blueprint. And those doubters won't have too long, as the first look of James Gunn and Peter Safran's new DC slate is expected before the end of January. I don't think that that's coming before the end of January, personally. It may. It's like I said, what do we have? We've got the 5. We've got 5 days left. So in this 5 days, we definitely could be seeing something where James Gunn comes out and says, okay, this is what some of the plans are for the future of the DCU. However, with 5 days left, and with James Gunn continuously arguing with YouTubers on Twitter and people and other, and I want to address this too. I've said this many times before, talking about James Gunn and talking about his stuff with Twitter. I don't like the fact that I like the fact that James Gunn will answer questions on Twitter, like when somebody said something about, like the question that was asked about Superman, and he said Superman was going to be younger, that they were going to do this and they were going to do that. Answering questions like that is fine, but one thing that I wish James Gunn would stop putting energy, and I get it, it's the internet, we're all human. I can't sit here and tell you that if somebody was coming, if I was constantly receiving a thread of tweets from various individuals, constantly attacking my character, constantly calling me this, constantly calling for me to be fired, I can't tell you, actually, I can tell you that I wouldn't be able to just sit and not be defensive. I wouldn't be able to sit and not have Twitter fingers to, combat or defend myself in whatever the situation may be. So I definitely understand where he's coming from by arguing back with some of these trolls on Twitter, but I will say this, if James Gunn, you beat them. This is how you beat them, is you show them. You show all these negative people that are so upset about the reboot. And for the people upset about a reboot, I don't know if anyone in here is upset about a reboot. But here's the thing. It's no secret. We're all aware that DC needed a reboot. And if you're one that thinks DC did not need a reboot, I encourage you to go back and watch anything that DC has given us thus far. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm not a Snyder fan, because I loved the Snyder Cut. However, I don't have to live in the Snyderverse. As long as we get to have these characters and they're still continuing, I'm fine with that. And that was the point I was making with James Gunn's reboot. The DC needed to be rebooted. So us seeing this reboot and us waiting to see what James Gunn has in store, I feel like if James Gunn just gets out there, puts out the information they're going to give for the 8 to 10 year slate, you kill them that way. You shut them up that way. Now, people are still going to be talking. People are still going to say, oh, this looks stupid. You could have just done this. You could have done that. But at the end of the day, we don't know anything until we see the final product. Once we see the final product and we're able to then make our assessments on this is bad or this is great or this is DC moving in the right direction or this is DC still staying in the same muddy positions, until we see the project, we really can't say, what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. I have said over and over, I actually applaud James Gunn. I applaud Peter Safran for coming in and taking on this role of wanting to reboot, needing to reboot, because you guys have heard me say it over here a lot as well. When it comes to Marvel stories, when it comes to DC stories, again, your mileage may vary, but for me personally, I adore the stories in DC more than I adore the stories that are in Marvel. That's not me saying I don't love Marvel, because obviously I do. But I adore the stories and characters over on the DC side way more than I do on the Marvel side. And I think if DC could just get their shit together, then we could probably be seeing Marvel have that rival, to where if how fans are feeling about the Marvel Cinematic Universe currently, you could have DC to fall back on. Or maybe you have that Marvel becomes your secondary option at that point. But I feel like once Peter and James Gunn get this thing off the ground, there are so many great characters in the DC Universe. There are so many great stories in the DC Universe. I feel like if we're just patient and wait, it's going to be, I hope it's going to be a turn in the right direction, in the course corrections for the DC Universe. But again, your mileage may vary. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys are thinking, because question is always for you. What are you guys thinking about James Gunn, going back at fans as far as the things that, are being said to him? Do you think that he should Do you think James Gunn should continue to react to fans the way he's reacting to fans on Twitter? Do you think that he should just take that time and really focus on whatever it is they're trying to give us for the DCU? Because, again, I don't mind James Gunn talking on Twitter like that, but I would say I would prefer his energy be put into preparing whatever it is they're going to be showing us than arguing with irrelevant YouTubers on Twitter. Like, who cares if when Josh said what he said to him about, I heard that James Gunn hates Henry Cavill. Who gives a fuck? If I'm James Gunn, I don't really care about that type of comment. Why? Because I'm going to be focused on putting my energy, all of my time and energy, into making sure that I blow every single one of you away. Every single one of you that have been negative, I'm going to make sure that I blow every single one of you away with the newly rebooted DC universe that I and Peter Safran have put together. So again, let me know down below in the comments what you guys are thinking about this newest report coming from James Gunn.